In this unit, we will be looking at the active and passive voice. When we use the term voice, we mean how the verb speaks, and a verb can speak either actively or passively. We say that it speaks actively when the subject is actually performing an act. We say it speaks passively when the subject is receiving an action. For example, in this first one, Paul is our subject, wrote is the predicate, on the blackboard answers where. This means that our verb here is intransitive. Paul is performing an action. He is writing, or he did write, on the blackboard. So since he's doing an action, it is said that it is active. Same thing in the second example. Paul is the subject, scored is the predicate, touchdown is the complement. Bob is performing an action, or he performed an action, which was he was scoring or he scored. Intransitive verbs, such as the first example here, are always active. But the second one, which is transitive, it can either be active or it can be passive. It speaks actively when the subject is the doer, so Bob scored a touchdown. Or in this example here, Margaret is the subject, tour is the predicate, sweater is the complement. Margaret is doing an action. She's performing an action, that of tearing the sweater on a nail. We can take the complement and move it up to the subject position. In that case, it's going to become passive. Here we have the sweater, which is the subject, was torn as the predicate, by Margaret. In this one, you have to ask yourself, what has the sweater done? What is a physical action that it has performed? A sweater can't perform a physical action. All it can do is receive an action. So when the receiver is the subject of a sentence, the verb is passive. The next example, John is the subject, ate is the predicate, lunch is the complement. We can take the word lunch, move it into the subject position. When we do that, we're going to make it passive. Lunch, which is my subject, was eaten by John, and this is the predicate. Again, ask yourself, what can the lunch do? A lunch can't do anything. All that it can do is receive an action, just like the sweater can only receive an action. So this one is passive. For your homework, you need to do all the exercises of 1, 2, and 3. In exercise 1, we have the first one. We have Ted is the subject, sent is the predicate, and message is the complement. All of these sentences are going to be active, so you have to change them into the passive voice. To make it passive, you simply take the complement and place it in the subject position. So it would look like this. A message was sent by Ted. You don't need this portion here by Ted for your homework. If you simply write a message was sent, that is sufficient. Number 2, my mother washed the windows. Mother is the subject, washed is the predicate, windows is the complement. So if I want to make this passive, because the mother is performing an action, it's active. To make it passive, I'm going to take the complement and put it in the subject position. So I end up with windows, which is the subject, were washed. Last example, a classmate stole my algebra book. Classmate is the subject, stole is the predicate, and book is the complement. So we're going to take book and move it to the subject position. And it would just be a book was stolen. You could say my algebra book was stolen, which is fine, but all that I'm looking for is the basic sentence structure. In exercise 2, if the sentence is active, you need to make it passive. If it's passive, make it active. So you need to first determine if the sentence is active or passive. In this one, Agnes earned a reward for her grades. Agnes is the subject, earned is the predicate, reward is a complement. Agnes is doing something, so she's performing an act. So this is clearly in the active voice. To make it passive, we need to start with reward. So we have a reward was earned. Reward is the subject, was earned is the predicate. We played baseball last summer. We is the subject, played is the predicate, baseball answers what? That's our complement. They are performing an act, that of playing baseball. So to make it passive, we move baseball to the subject position. Baseball was played. Then for exercise 3, all you have to do is write D, or we'll type D or R. D for the doer, R for the receiver. So first, determine the subject. He sent the order to his friend in Kentucky. He is the subject. Sent is the predicate. Is the subject doing something? In this case, yes, so you write the letter D, or type the letter D. The money was sent by express. Money is the subject. Was sent is the predicate. Money can't do anything, and especially in this case, money isn't doing anything. Something was being done to the money. What was being done to the money? It was sent. The old books from the library were sold. Books is the subject. Sold is the predicate. Are the books doing something? No. The books are receiving an action. And since they are receiving an action, this one is said to be passive. So do all of the remaining exercises for homework. That would be Unit 2, Exercise 1, 2, and 3.